Hello and welcome to the ADHD Guru podcast. My name is Jonathan Carroll. I am an ADHD and executive functioning coach. For more information on me, you can visit my website at adhdguru.com. You can call me at area code 877-398-2343. You can send me an email to Jonathan, that's Jonathan at adhdefcoach.com. You can follow me on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at ADHD Guru. You can find me on Facebook at ADHD and Executive Functioning Coach. If you're listening to this through the iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, or TuneIn Radio apps, thank you very much. If you wouldn't mind leaving me some feedback, I'd really appreciate it. Positive feedback is always loved, but constructive feedback is always helpful as I try to grow and develop this podcast. If you ever have a show idea, let me know as well. I'm always happy to talk about topics that you have or thoughts that you have or things you want to know more about, because I'm assuming other people would like to know those too. So I'm always happy to talk about those kinds of things and give you some hopefully helpful information. Today's topic is one that I personally deal with myself. I am an adult with ADHD, so I generally will deal with some of these issues, and it's really sleep and ADHD. I mean, it's always very difficult for me to get a good night's sleep, and it's not that I don't try, because I do. It's not that I don't want to sleep well, because I do, but there are times where it's not easy for me. Excuse me. So I have some suggestions for you on ways that you can certainly work with and improve sleep. And I think the first one is, and really this has come along probably in the last 10 years, is the use of electronic devices. And some people I know have watched TV in their rooms while they sleep. But really this one here is more of avoiding certain electronics like iPads or cell phones or handheld games or things like that, I think are really impactful of our sleep. The light that those will let off will sometimes fool our brain into thinking that there's daylight. And then trying to all of a sudden take our brain, which is a little more wound up because of that light, and then trying to get it to sort of slow itself down and go to sleep is difficult. Now, there are some people that can manage that. But for people with ADHD that sometimes have sort of can be stimulated in many different ways, that can be a real challenge. So the first part of this, I would say, is if you're going to use electronic devices, you should probably start winding down probably 15 minutes to a half hour before you want to go to sleep, because that'll help your brain sort of slow itself down and allow you to kind of get into a comfortable position. So the first thing I would say is, again, is try to limit electronic device usage at night right before you're going to go to bed. Some of the phones now and things have night mode on them, which sort of makes the light a little less like daylight. Frankly, I don't know if that makes a difference or not for some people, but it might be something to consider as you're trying to sort of wind yourself down and deal with that. So I think that's probably first and foremost, is watch how much you're using electronic devices and try to sort of limit that before you're going to go to bed. The second thing is getting into a routine. What do I mean? Try to get to bed by a specific time every night. Like, condition yourself, say, okay, by this time I want to be in bed and trying to get to sleep. Finding that consistent spot of going to bed and being really vigilant about it and doing it on a regular basis. I cannot stress that enough, that I think that the more routines we get into when we have ADHD, the better we function. So I think that should be one as well, as like, say by 10 o'clock, I want to be in bed, and really stick to that. And, by the time you do that, that will sort of condition your body to be used to doing it a certain way. And that'll help you more often. I find for myself that when I do that, usually I'm having my better nights of sleep than when I'm like, oh, I'll go to bed at, 11 or I'll go to bed at 12, or I'll go to bed at 11:30. Just if I say, okay, I'm going to bed every night at 10:30 and I'm in bed and I consistently follow that, I usually find that I have an easier time falling asleep and maintaining sleep. Some other things too is food consumption. I think sometimes, look, I guilty as charged. I have a tendency of snacking sometimes. and I have to be careful of that because I think the more you eat um, before you go to bed, what you eat before you go to bed, what you drink before you go to bed can all really impact you. So I think you have to be really careful not to abuse or not to eat too much or the wrong things. Um, or really try really and truly you should try to avoid snacking at all before you go to bed. But if you have to, at least try to eat something that's really going to be not too acidic or hard on the stomach or anything like that. And if you're going to drink, I mean, water is obviously never a bad thing to drink, but I would avoid drinking anything that might have sugar in it, and especially things with caffeine. I cannot tell you that, sometimes we don't notice. For example, I have a drink of something the other day. I had this bottled drink, and I looked on the side of it, and it says, it contained caffeine, and I had no idea it had caffeine in it. So you got to be really careful of what you drink before you go to bed as well. So, and then last but not least is force yourself to stay in bed. Don't start walking around when you're having trouble falling asleep. If you stay in bed, your chances of falling asleep obviously are a lot better. Um, so I would avoid getting up, walking around, checking your phone, turning on the TV, things like that. Because if you do that, that'll then make it so much more difficult to fall asleep. So those are just some ideas that I have for you. Be curious to know if you have any ideas that work for you. If you want to leave me some feedback, like I said, if you want to leave me some feedback, send me a message. I'd love to hear it from you, and certainly we can, do a follow-up podcast to this with some of the things you come up with. So let me give you my contact info one more time. I am Jonathan Carroll. I am an ADHD and executive functioning coach. You can find out more about me at ADHDguru.com. You can call me at 877-398-2343. You can send me an email to Jonathan, that's JONATHAN at ADHDEFcoach.com. You can find me you can find me on Twitter, YouTube, and an Instagram at ADHD Guru. You can find me on Facebook at ADHD and Executive Functioning Coach. If you're listening to the iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, or TuneIn Radio apps, thank you very much. And if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to leave me some feedback, would be great. And again, anything that you bring up to me, I will certainly be happy to um, try to discuss on a future podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.